we're ready to go. All right, hello and welcome back to another webinar with the First Nations Public Service Secretariat. My name is Selena Dorme. I'm from the Tsleil-Waututh Nation here in North Vancouver and the engagement coordinator for the First Nations Public Service Secretariat. For today's webinar, we have Barbara Stevens from the Skidegate Band Council. She is the Chief Administrative Officer and Healer. And we also have Sandra Harris from the Wet'suwet'en Trauma. She's from the Wet'suwet'en Community Trauma Practitioner to join us to kind of discuss wellness in a time of uncertainty. So they're both going to speak for a little bit, outlining the critical importance of wellness and healing right now at this point in time where we're all facing COVID-19. And again, I'd like to introduce Bronwyn Geddes. She's working with us here at the First Nations Public Service Secretariat. She's going to be in the back end answering your questions if you have specific ones for the FNPSS. As I mentioned, please submit your questions to the Q&A using the Q&A function so that we can answer those live. Without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Babs to go ahead and get started.
Good morning, everybody. Iljalawis Hanodi Kigaga. Babs Stevens is my English name, and I'm from Skidegate, Haida Gwaii. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer here, and I've been on a healing path since 1976, doing various and numerous different kinds of healing. With COVID-19, I'm seeing a lot of fear in our community and in the world. And I really believe that if we heal ourselves, we heal the earth. And there's thousands of different modes of healing out there that people can access. My main mode of healing is psychology of vision. I'm a facilitator, and it's really helped me as a Chief Administrative Officer over the years to be centered and to be calm. So I send a lot of love and centeredness out to everybody on this call. I know FNHA has a helpline, so maybe we can post it to the FNPSS site after we're done, the administrator's site. So our community is on a little island, and we're working on our pandemic plan, and it's quite a process for everybody. We start every meeting off with a prayer, and everybody does their reports on what's happening with the pandemic, and some of the plans that we're looking at aren't easy ones, like coming up with a burial protocol and guiding our whole community in how to be safe. I think that's the most important piece here with this pandemic. And touching base with Mother Nature is a really good thing for everybody to do. If you can go out for a walk and make sure you're distant from everybody, that would be one of the most amazing things you can do. Hawa, thank you.
All right, over to you, Sandra.
Okay. Well, I'm coming in here from the Hazeltons, just outside of Smithers in northern BC. And just to pick up on what Bab said, you know, there's a lot of fear and panic in our families right now. And often this can be a trigger for us, you know, this understanding of disease and epidemic. We have a long history of disease in our communities, Indigenous communities around the world. So there can be a really big collective response to that. And that often shows up as fear and panic and worry. And the fact that, you know, as Indigenous people, we're so social. You know, we come together to hold each other up by food, by ceremony, by prayer. And we're not able to do that in the way we normally do. And that's how we find our strength through a big upset like we're going through right now. And so that's creating that isolation, that distancing is creating a little bit more of that fear that we can't do the things that we normally do together. So that's requesting or getting us to be, seeking innovation. How can we still do this? How can we still be out on the land to get our medicines? How can we be in the water as a family? How can we collect our food without putting each other at risk and still carry on with those practices in a good way to help get that balance into our lives? Because when we're on the land, when we're outside, we're often more present and we're not in this place of fear and we're not in a place of reaction. And when we can be grounded and we can be in the present mode, then we have a better chance of healing and we can have a better chance of getting through and being more resilient. Because as we know, if we have more fear, panic, worry, and I'm a worrier, I'm a worry warrior, then my system is constantly reacting to this worry. My health and my body's well-being suffers. And if I'm not feeling whole and strong, then my immune system crashes. And if my immune system crashes, then I'm more vulnerable. And it's the people that are vulnerable that are gonna get sick. And we already see this in our communities. We've had a big stress from colonization and oppression in our communities, and we're still healing from all that hurt and that pain, that collectiveness around that has left a lot of our people in a hurt place with addictions, with grief and loss, with violence. And so if our bodies are still responding to all that hurt, it makes our immune system weaker. So we see heart disease, we see diabetes, we see a lot of people in stress or distress. And we see this everywhere. It's not just in BC, it's all over the world. And so we really need to find ways to help our body, mind, and spirit be well, to find that balance. And so being outside is a good thing, just breathing, learning how to breathe deep breaths, how to find our medicine. We call that medicine. What is your medicine to help you be in a more calm and relaxed state? And this is some of the work I've been doing, as Bronwyn mentioned, with Not So Much Tribal Council. And this is a training that we took. It's called Aboriginal Focusing on the body, because our body is wise. And so our body knows a lot about this epidemic, this pandemic, because we connect to this collectiveness, this intergenerational knowing that's deep implicit in our body. And sometimes that triggered place will come up. Being alone, feeling vulnerable, it's a scary place to be. And there's so many things out of our control right now, whether people are listening to this social isolation or the physical distancing, seeing on the news, like if we're engaged in social media, that can be triggering because it's so much information, it can be overwhelming. And if we're overwhelmed, then again, we're going to start getting into trouble. And so it's important that we find that balance. And as workers, especially in our communities, we pick up a lot of the story around us, the people we work with, a lot of the vulnerable people we work with, the leadership. There's a lot of things happening at one time. And so often we pick up that story of all those around us. And if we pick up too much, we hold each other up, which is a good thing, it's a blessing. But if we carry too much, we get stressed. And we know this because we can't sleep well, we don't eat well, we're not rested. And again, that's starting to compromise our immune system. Our body just can't carry too much. It's like carrying a big pack for a long time up a hill. We have to stop. We have to take a rest. We have to eat good food. We have to laugh, hold each other up, get outside, all those things that help us find balance. And so if we are in a triggered place with the fear and the worry, then we have to notice that that's what's happening. And we have to check into ourselves and stop and try to figure out what's happening. What's causing the big worry? Is it being on the news 10 hours a day on Facebook, which can be a really triggering place for a lot of people, because we're all kind of like, the sky is falling, and we tap into that real quick. We pick up that story really fast. So yeah, I'm not watching the time here. How am I doing for time?
You're doing great. That's fine.
Okay, yeah.
We actually don't have any specific questions that have been submitted so far. So please send your questions to Sandra and Babs. They are here and happy to answer anything that you might have, whether it's how do you support your children right now during this time? How do you support your elders during this time? They are the experts in their field. They are healers. Please take advantage of that. Oh, we do have a question. What are the challenges you see elders are facing versus those of the youth at this point in time?
I'll answer that one, and Sandra can too after me. Our First Nations people are so family oriented that that's the part that our elders are having such a hard time with. We're all used to being all together. There's a lot of elders in my community who live alone, and but we also have a good support system for them. We have people who will shop for them, and we have people who will bring them their medication, but it's that human connection that they're really missing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that loneliness can really kick in right now too, because we're not able to come together like we do. We have a family dinner and 40 people show up. We can't do that right now. And so, in our area, we've had 3 babies die in the last 10 days. And that's been a very tragic loss for us. And we're not able to come together and grieve and mourn like we normally do. So that in itself is a really stressful time, not just with the loss alone, but not being able to come together and support each other with food, with hugs, with medicine. And so it is creating a lot more stress. So we are putting a lot of requests, or a lot of, can you help out? And asking our young people who are mobile and who are able, to check on the elders. We have people on patrol that are going around and checking on people, offering food, like you said, Babs, getting medicine. And in my own family, I'm on the phone a lot. Hey, we'd phone around and just check on each other. How are you doing? Facebook Messenger, reaching out to people, that are in distress, just checking in on you. How are you doing? And understanding that there's a big collective upset right now. And this collective upset's probably been here for a long time. And that's your body, mind, and spirit responding to that. And just notice that. And so, just checking in with each other and making sure everyone is okay. And then finding supports for them if we can. Hope that makes sense.
Thank you.
If I could add one tiny little thing more, I've seen people, as long as they practice social distancing, is go sit on their loved one's porch and just wave at them, just so that they can see them. Like we call them nunais and chinais, grandmas and grandpas, and grandchildren and family can touch base that way without being in the same room.
Yes. Drumming and singing a song. An elder passed here, the Gitsan Nation, a beloved woman elder. And so the family went outside and we're singing songs to her outside her hospital room. And so people are doing that around the hospital now, you know, singing, sharing, showing pictures, you know, just some kind of connection, so people don't feel so alone. Hey, yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you both. Definitely really important, and especially for the elders who are not so much with connectivity and technology. The youth,
Yes.
I think, have a much easier time doing that, staying connected through technology, but for our youth, that is hard. So sitting on the porch is a great idea. The next question is, my staff are beginning to feel they cannot separate work life from home life. Any suggestions? This is wearing on their mental health.
Our office is closed to the public, and we only have essential services in here. So I come to work every day, and there's so much to do. So people don't come in here, and I really don't know how to advise people. You just need to leave everything here when you go home. Stay centered. Say a prayer for yourself. I use essential oils a lot.
Yeah.
I use Immune on my belly button every day, and I use Harmony on my wrists. So if you have essential oil, use them. It centers you.
Thank you.
Yeah, if people are working at home and their family's at home, that can be a real challenge. I know some offices have closed right down, so there's nobody at the office. So again, that's a real challenge to be at home with your family to try to do work. So, you know, again, just trying to find, like Bab said, find that balance, having the priorities for the day, you know, because we can't do everything in one day. And I know that this is a really stressful time and a lot of pressure is being put on staff to do so much. So, you know, what are the priorities for the day? 1 or 2 top things that need to be done or this week, and who's doing what. You know, communication is so important right now, in small communities especially. People, if they don't have any communication, always assume the worst, and that's human nature too, hey? And so, you know, a daily update to the community would be helpful. You know, these are the things we're doing. We are in pandemic planning. You know, we are doing these things to help our community be safe. It can just take, you know, a 2-minute blurb on Facebook. Anything like that really helps ease people's worry. And yeah, team meetings, even though you're sitting 6 feet apart, are really important. Hey, supporting each other, noticing the vicariousness of all of that in your community. Some whole communities might be in this mode, and that's normal. And so we have to pay attention to, if that's how we're responding, then we have to pay attention to it. And understand that our history, you know, 150 years of history is often falling in our laps right now all at once. And that can feel really big. And that's a collectiveness to it. That's the intergenerational part of it. And so know that it's a shared something that we're picking up from each other. And that's how we hold each other up to survive and get through an awful time like we are now. But if we are picking it up, then we can just bundle it all up and then we can set it down. Like that big pack, we can just set it down, leave it in the land, in the water, somewhere where it's helpful. We don't need to carry all of that. You know, there might be a teaching or a lesson there, and try to reflect on that. Yeah, I hope that's helpful.
Thank you. The next question is, what are some other ways, in addition to drumming, singing outside of hospitals, that culture and language can be shared in this time of social distancing? Are there websites or social media groups that are particularly helpful, or activities that don't require technology or supplies?
I'm really stumped on that one.
Well, I'm going to say, you know, laughter, laughter, laughter. You know, when we're stressed, we get into this place in our head, and we're reacting to something. You know, the fear, the worry, the anxiety, the isolation. So laughter is one of the best things we can do. So whether that's telling jokes or watching a funny movie or anything like that, laughter really helps us get out of that place. And it helps ground us and helps us get us back into our body, back into the now. Watching babies laugh, taking care of babies and they're laughing. Animals, fur babies, they're such good helpers too. They help us get out of our head and back into our body, like I said, back into the now. Coloring and art therapy is a wonderful thing we can do now too. You know, having kids color. You know, I did a session with one elder and asked her to color. We were doing mandalas. I'd never done mandalas before, to color a mandala. And she colored her whole mandala black. She says, that's all I see. And we came back in a little while. We did another mandala and it was full of color. So she was processing something around loss and grief, but it helped her express it. And it's the whole idea of getting it off of you and setting it down, setting the hurt, the pain, the worry, so we don't carry it. We can set it down. So coloring is a wonderful thing to do. Finger painting for kids is another good thing to do. So those laughter, coloring are simple things that don't take a lot of supplies you might have at home. Music and dance, just listening to the radio, your favorite songs, create a new dance, create a song. You know, young people are into slam poetry. I've never done that, but that's another popular thing. Yeah. So there's a few ideas there.
Gaming, playing games too.
Playing games, yes.
Yeah, cards. There's so many different forms of card playing and Monopoly and Yahtzee and a lot of family games. I know my family was playing games the other night and they had so much fun.
Yes. Crib.
If your cards were big enough or you made some, you could play with your neighbor out your window.
Yeah.
Show your cards.
Yeah.
Random thought just came to me right now. The next question, those were all really great tips, so thank you so much for that. There is another question. I'm going to head and share your name if that's okay, because it's a specific ask. Jessica Dorner. I'm wondering if you might consider offering a prayer and a time to share tools of wellness and community connection on our community Facebook health page. I think this could help many members that are staying home. It could also help support staff that are working to spread the message of protecting our community. So if either one of you are open to doing that, then she would like that. So I can share your contact information with our panelists after.
Okay. And I know Sandra does healing work too with people, but I work with First Nations people and I work free, but I'm only available like specific nights and specific days. But there's so much need out there. Mm-hmm. I'd be willing to do a prayer. We can both do prayers on the site.
We could definitely close with one today, if you're open to that. And then for the question that was about the websites or social media posts, if there's any of you that are watching and you have a suggestion, please send it into the group chat and share it with everybody else. If you know of a Facebook group page or website, I'm pretty sure everybody else would be interested in seeing that and hearing that too as well. We had one other suggestion as an activity that you can do to help alleviate anxiety and stress during this time, which was gardening the land. That's always one thing that you can do. I definitely agree with that. Yes.
One thing I noticed lately is a lot of people are doing Zoom, what we're on right now, Zoom meetings. And I'm on a Zoom healing 10-day apprenticeship with 65 people from all over the world. So nothing's impossible.
Yeah. And that's so exciting.
Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to say is that When we feel stressed, we get up in our head and we get into this place. And one of the things that helps us move out of that into our body is doing something with our hands. And our cultural practices have lots of good medicine there that help us. So in this last little while, I picked up beading. I haven't done beading in like 35 plus years, I'm sad to say. So I picked out beading. And there's something about how your brain works, trying to figure out colors, trying to figure out a pattern. It helps you jump out of the stress. Sometimes when we have a lot of stress, we get like a record player skipping and we get stuck in that groove. And so we kind of always respond with loudness, or we don't respond, we're silent, or we take off. And so it's to help us get out of that groove, doing something like beading, like drumming, like sewing, knitting, art, cooking. I've seen lots of amazing kids cooking and sharing the things they've made online. So that's so wonderful to see. Those things help us move out of that place up here. And again, it helps us drop back into our body, our whole body. We can notice things around us, how things smell, how the sun feels on us, how the wind. And those are things that help us heal and help us get through the trouble like we are in now. And so those are really important things to do that help us. And they often connect us to grandparents, you know, about patterns. Well, what is the pattern that our family had, or moccasins, or design? You know, what does our crest look like? And so that gets us to reach out to our most valuable elders and speakers. And so that in itself is a connection, and it's a very important one. So all kinds of good things happen when we start reaching into our cultural practices to see how things are done. Storytelling, you know, what are our creation stories? How did we get through big upsets? There's so much knowledge there our people have. And those can be shared too in such a loving, kind way. So our people can see, you know, we've done this before. We've made it through hard times before. And that knowing helps us get through challenging times. And so that's good to remember that too.
Thank you. Great, wonderful discussion so far. We just have another question just from Colette Anderson. Hi, you lovely ladies. I'm wondering if you think it's useful to start using language such as physical distancing versus social distancing versus emotional distancing.
Well, I prefer physical distancing. I was teasing, you know, we're apart, one moose apart, or one Oolican stick apart. That's the physical part, because we want to stay socially connected at this time. Because this isolation, this idea of isolation can be triggering for so many of us. It's really important that we stay connected. We stay social, but in a different way. And so the physical distancing makes more sense to me. So that's what I tease everyone, you know, we got to stay one moose apart for me, please. And the emotional one, I haven't heard that one before, but again, you know, when there's big emotion, that's often a shared something that we have, like again, the fear, like Babs was talking about, or the worry or the panic. When that starts to show up, often that's that big collective overwhelming emotion that's kicking in. And so that's a response to something. That's our body responding to something. And again, it's probably historical. It's been here before. And so we have to notice that. And we have to kind of grab it all up and bundle it up and set it down. And everyone does that differently. And so we have to find out what works for you, each of you, how you want to bundle up, where do you want to put all that big emotion, collect it up. This is also very helpful for mental health around suicide. When there's suicide in our communities, we want to gather up all that anxiety, that big sad, that worry in our community, in our family, and we want to bundle it up and we want to set it down because it's an energy and we don't want that energy to keep growing. So we really do have to really almost grab it. As grandmothers, a lot of grandmothers do this. They grab it and they bundle it up. You know, there's almost always a teaching there. We reflect on what the teaching is, and then we set it down and then land somewhere in the fire, in the water. Everyone's different. So the distancing, physical one makes most sense to me.
It makes most sense to me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One
I
lady
think,
said,
definitely the message will just be, from everything that you hear from, you know, the daily updates we get from Dr. Bonnie Henry, they're saying social distancing, social distancing. So I think we don't want to make a point of saying, yes, physically we should be doing that, but don't disconnect from your family, from your friends. Try to find those alternate ways of staying connected through technology. Don't distance yourself emotionally. Just the word social distancing is thrown around now so much. Let's make a point of saying, don't lose the emotional connection, don't lose the social connection with people. Try to make that effort to make that happen, even though you have to stay in your own house or you have to stay so far apart. Yeah.
We've had a number of birthdays here this last week, and in the family. So the family did drive-by birthday honks. And so that's still being social, but everyone still maintained their distance between one another. And so the people experiencing their birthday, you know, even though they were, you know, isolated or alone within their house, they still had a connection there. So these innovative things are coming out. You know, how can we work around this? How can we make this work and still show the big love? I call it the big love for our families, for our elders, for our little ones. So they can't have the birthday party with 40 members showing up, but still we can still do these other things, right? And still show the love and care for each other. So that's important.
And I would also recommend, like, we talk about social distancing, but if you picked up the phone and talked to your sister or your brother and said, hey, I'm just checking up on you. How are you doing? Just want you to know I'm thinking about you.
Yeah,
That means so much to people.
it does.
I now make a point of FaceTiming any and everybody, and that used to not be the norm. You know, people would prefer, oh, text me, don't call me, that's weird. And now it's like, please look at my face. I need to see your face. I need to see a reaction because I'm stuck at home and I'm kind of going crazy. I know that I've definitely felt that way in the past 3 weeks now, or 4 weeks of working from home. I felt like all my days rolled into one very quickly.
Yes.
And I wore the same shirt for 3 days and I was like, well, this is a problem. So, you know, let's make a point of getting dressed every day, you know, doing your hair every day, doing your makeup every day. If that's what you choose to do the things that make you feel like a person, like you're not just rolling around in your house every day for weeks on end. Like that's, I tried to create a schedule for myself, you know.
Good.
This time I'm going to get up. This time I'm going to be teleworking. This time I'm dedicating to working out. The physical exercise is definitely key for me in maintaining my mental health during this time. So,
oh, definitely. Our bodies are made to move. So we need to move. Yeah, absolutely. I know I have my friend text me. She says, I miss your face. So I need to Facebook Live with her soon.
Yeah, for sure. We have about 10 minutes left. If we have any other questions, please submit them right now. If we don't get any other questions, then we can go ahead and close out. And it's up to you, Babs or Sandra. If one of you would kindly close us out with a prayer, I think that would be really lovely. Any other questions, anybody? I don't think so.
Well, I just want to say there's a thing going around a 21-day self-care challenge. So finding 15 minutes a day to do one thing to take care of yourself. Having everyone in your family do that, little ones, elders, and just sharing, you know, what is that one thing you're doing? You know, getting up, changing, getting up, doing your hair, you know, body work outside, taking a walk. Like, what is that one thing you do each day for 21 days? because the challenge we have is like, this is probably going to be a long haul here that we're in. And so we have to start shifting how we live, really. Hey, our lifestyle is changing. So how can we take care of ourselves with this very uncertain, unpredictable time here? And with the long weekend coming in especially, people are going to want to come together, hey, for Easter, for spring. You know, there's so many things happening. So what is that one thing you're doing? 21-day self-care challenge, I think, is a great idea. So promoting that. My last comment.
I don't mind saying the closing part.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, Babs.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay, if we could center ourselves in that place deep, deep, deep within us where love and grace flow. Thank you, Creator. Thank you for today. Thank you for all the people on earth. We send love out to everyone. We send light out to everyone. May their burdens be lifted. And may we all come from a place of grace as we deal with the people around us. Hawa, thank you, Creator. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Babs. Really appreciate it. I think, during that time we had 2 questions. Let's see. Thank you for coordinating this. Much appreciated. Thank you, ladies. We do need to take care of ourselves, and thank you for your suggestions. So thank you all so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Thank you both Sandra and Babs for being here. This is a really critical time to support one another, to make mental health a priority right now. Your expertise and knowledge sharing is just great. And I think that it's helped a lot of people today. So thank you for being here. And we'd be happy to have you back again. Webinars is the new thing. We got a Wednesday webinar now. So we'll be definitely happy to have you back. I do want to mention that I'll have the First Nations Public Service Secretariat has a Facebook group page. It's called the First Nation Administrators Network. The members of that page are people that work in a First Nation community. So your administrators, your CAOs, executive directors, other levels of management. Please go ahead and join. There's a lot of discussion on a lot of different areas right now, but even your CAO can use some support and suggestions on mental health right now. It's a really great place to share information amongst other communities. So I encourage you to join that. Bronwyn just shared the link to that in the group chat. So please add yourself to our group. We'd be happy to have you there. Bronwyn, anything you'd like to share before we close out?
I would just love to thank Sandra and Babs for sharing their time and thoughts with us this morning. It was really amazing. I feel very grounded and centered. Thank you for the prayer, Babs. And it's always a pleasure working with both of you. And thank you, Selena, for moderating.
Yes.
Yes, both of your voices are very soothing. And I just felt very calm during the whole thing.
Oh,
so
good.
That's great. Thank you.
The last thing I want to say is a prayer doesn't have to be a prayer. You can, it's just talking to out loud or silently to whoever the higher person is that you feel. So pray.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody, so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay healthy and safe out there. And we will see you in the next webinar.
Okay.
Bye.
Nakalya, Nanyastan.
Bye.
Bye.